the Illuminate. Ever since their introduction in the Omens of Tyranny update, they've always been a point of contingency within the community. At first people said they were boring, and yeah, having 4 enemies total is gonna do that to you. But now times have changed. With the Heart of Democracy update introducing more enemy variety, we've moved them from boring to annoying. Yeah, things are much better. But why is that? Exactly. A lot of people pointed at the leviathan and called it a day, but I think it's a little more nuanced than that. In a world with terminillion little fucks chasing you around and spontaneous combustion via turret discombobulation, the Illuminates being the annoying ones is a little interesting, in my opinion. So that's what we're gonna do today. So let's just dive right into it. To understand the issues with the Illuminate, we need to understand the role in gameplay. First, let's break down the roles the other factions fill in gameplay. The Terminates are the melee horde. They will swarm you, will rush you down and rip you apart limb from limb, but generally have a lower health per unit. They have a very limited range, and the units that do have range are mostly special and therefore rare. The Automatons are the complete opposite from the Terminates, with more spread out units and generally larger or tankier health pools. They prefer to reduce you to a fine red mist with thundering firepower, with the occasional melee attack that's mostly meant to just disrupt you. The Illuminate aim for a balance in between these two roles, having a squishy melee horde along with more ranged units, turning the faction into a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none sort of deal. However, in reality, it's more a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-all, go fuck yourself. Yeah, no, in practice there's a couple issues with how they fulfill this role. Instead of inheriting at least some weaknesses from both roles, they just inherit the strengths and kind of walk away. One crucial weakness that I believe they fail to inherit is weak points. The Terminates, as an effect of being squishy, mostly lack weak points, so while shooting them a couple times in general might deal with them, shooting them in the wrong places will leave them still standing. Like brute commanders shrugging off their heads being blown off, or warriors crawling despite having no legs. The Automatons, to compensate for being generally tankier, go down easily if you focus on their weak points. Headshots are a whole lot more effective against troopers and devastators, and the same goes for hulks, if you're feeling adventurous that is, although the vents on their backs are more reliable and allow you to use lower pen weapons to deal with them. The same also goes for the tanks with their pens on the back of the turrets. Then the Illuminate, they don't do any of that. Dare I say they sort of flip the script. The Boatless, despite being the squishy enemies of the factions, are surprisingly resilient and will chase you till the ends of the earth until you blow their heads move off, which is the weak point. But again, this is the Illuminate's horde unit. There are always dozens of them, and they are faster, if not faster than you, and flail around like a fucking inflatable tube man. So having the counter to this type of enemy being precision is a rather odd choice. Then there's the Overseers, who technically also have the same weak spot of the Boatless, aka their head, but it's rather inconsistent, at least with the typical ways to deal with the type of unit. Them being tanky medium units means they're pretty similar to Devastators on the bot front. I mean, they both also have the whole 3 variant deal going on, so one would expect weapons such as the Deadeye, which are incredible against Devastators, would do well against the Overseer, right? And I mean, yeah, sometimes it kills them in one hit, maybe, possibly, if you pray before every single shot, because at the same time Stagger seems to affect them less than Devastators. So it feels like the only real way to reliably headshot an Overseer is a heavy pen weapon, which if you ask me is a little too much for a medium unit, but you know. Now I know a certain Overseer type does have a concrete weak point similar to other factions, but don't worry, we'll talk about that guy soon. Him and big guy up there are gonna have their own section. Just you wait. Moving on from Overseers, we have the Flesh Mobs, which are just walking bullet sponges. Yeah, they have the head weak point thing going on as well, but they have like 10 heads scattered around their entire body, so who cares? You just shoot them with the autocannon and flag them out a couple times, so they'll go down like that. Then there's the heavy units, aka Stingrays and Harvesters, which I believe are fine as they are. Stingrays are cool and aren't hard to take down, so the lack of weak point doesn't really matter if you're just paying attention. And Harvesters, while them being spam once a reinforcement comes can get pretty annoying. It's not exactly their fault. Otherwise, I believe they're pretty balanced. The electric attack can be annoying, but just avoid getting close to them. But now, let's talk about the truly fucked up and evil parts of the Illuminate. Public enemy number 1 and public enemy number 2. First of all, there's the Elevated Overseer. Been with us since Omens of Tyranny and has been hated ever since. As you might remember, I mentioned a certain Overseer had an actual weak point. This is it, this is the guy. So you might wonder, if it has a weak point, why is this one specifically a problem? Well, he's fucking annoying. Overseers are resilient. The one thing that's holding them back from being awful is mobility. They don't really wiggle around as much as other enemies. But this guy gives you the middle finger and does whatever he wants, flying around like a mosquito that also never loses track of you. Sometimes while you're shooting at them, they'll just start flying away, meaning you deal less damage against them and overall less accurate. Or just ascend to the heavens for whatever reason, and never even mind the random moments when they lock in and hit every shot, leaving you crippled if not dead. Their weak point is their jetpack, which naturally is on their back. If you destroy it, it explodes, and they die. Sounds easy, right? This thing will rarely come into play when fighting them. They're not like Hulks or tanks, who also have the same weak point in their back. But to compensate for this, they are very slow, allowing you to kite around them easily and get some shots off. These guys never stop looking at you, and when they do, if you start shooting at the jetpack, most of the time they'll just turn around to look at you and negate all of that. I fucking hate these guys. 0 out of 10. Fuck you. Give them a cell. Please, I'm begging. Anyways, big guy. While writing the script for this video, the Leviathan went through a substantial nerf, which was very warranted, which mostly addresses my gripes with them. So instead of ripping into them, I want to express why these nerfs were necessary. This is mostly focused at the crowd I've started seeing, saying that they didn't need a nerf, and that the game's gonna be easy now, and yada yada yada. To begin with, I would classify the Leviathans as a boss enemy. To understand the problems the Leviathan had, let's look at other boss enemies, aka the Bible Titan and the Factory Strider. The Bible Titan and Factory Striders share the same design philosophies, aka being mostly relegated to spawning during reinforcement calls or inside mega nests or fortresses. While mostly requiring the use of anti-tank weapons or stratagems, medium weapons could still help in the fight, by being able to destroy their own weapons or even kill them if you play your cards right. The Leviathan really didn't do any of that. It was an inconsistency, an outlier. It didn't need reinforcements because it was simply there all the time and could continue spawning no matter what. You couldn't disarm it without using an anti-tank, which even then still required a whole lot of shots, and you in general couldn't do shit against it without an anti-tank weapon. Stratagems were incredibly inconsistent against it, especially in megacities where you had to account for your super destroying needing to move to shoot, which also isn't helped by the fact that the Leviathan doesn't really chase you, so timing your stratagems is a whole lot more difficult. All of that results in them being very hard to kill if you don't bring loadout specifically focused on dealing with the Leviathan, which just hasn't ever been a thing with other factions. I've seen a mix of people saying that they are just a mission modifier and are meant to be ignored. I completely disagree. In the Heart of Democracy trailer, where they were introduced, they were explicitly shown being shot at and killed. So I think it's very obvious the developers do want you to fight against it. And also, this is Helldivers. You kill everything. That's your job. If there was a unit that the whole point was to ignore it, it'd be kind of dumb. It'd be kind of off topic. All this to say is that the Leviathan was pretty unfun to deal with. Now, was the recent nerf too much? It's tricky to say for certain. Personally, now that the Leviathan is not as deadly as before, I think, and again this is my opinion, it should chase you now. I think that would offset a bit of the supposed over nerf, but I'm mostly formulating this part based off just a single video I saw of it missing most of its shots, so we'll just have to see. Anyways, now that the Leviathan topic is settled, I have one last gripe with the Illuminate, and that is... something I do like about the Illuminate is how they call reinforcements. Unlike the bots, so you have to worry about the little guys calling in dropships, or the bugs, where basically all of them can create bug breaches, only one unit can call for reinforcements, the Observer. And thanks to the usage of the brightest flashlight in the world, they aren't really hard to miss. But after looking into the topic of the Illuminate more, I've noticed something. Illuminate reinforcements don't matter. Every single unit is here and ready to bother you, regardless of reinforcements. Now, before you say anything, yes, this is the same case for the other factions, but I think this plays a larger role with the Illuminate. As I said before, the boss enemies from other factions are sparse and usually around optional objectives, so they are mostly up to you to fight. Patrols in the bot front do tend to have hulks and such, but they are small fights that can be done quick, and same goes for the bugs. Patrols by themselves won't really swarm you or overwhelm you until there's a bug breach or a dropship call. All the Illuminate units wander around or are scattered around every single point of interest or objective, or actively know where you are at all times, so this means that you'll frequently have to deal with every single type of enemy. There's that, and then there's the boatless issue. Now, the boatless themselves I wouldn't say are unbalanced or anything like that, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't find anything on the wiki, but I once heard the boatless were more sound sensitive than other units. I'm just gonna roll with that because it honestly feels like they are when dealing with them, and you'll see why in a second. But whenever you engage a boatless patrol, which is basically all the damn time, they seem to tell everyone where you are, because they just never stop coming. Alerting one patrol of boatless, which is usually at least like 10 of them, means alerting every other patrol in every single part of the map, and they seem to be attracted to objectives a whole lot more than the patrols of other factions. So you frequently find yourself being constantly interrupted by boatless whenever you're trying to do anything, which then also attracts overseers who are with the boatless, then flesh mobs randomly appear, then harvesters get in the mix, and it feels like you're fighting reinforcements even though they never once called any. I frequently find myself trying to do something like the CAF artillery site objective, and being constantly pelted by little boatless that will never leave me alone. And it feels like there's a constant stream of them, even though there's not a camp nearby, or any reinforcements being called recently, and I haven't activated the terminal, which I know doing that in the artillery objective attracts patrols. I don't do that until I have all the shells, and even then, they are constantly overwhelming me, and eventually shit hits the fan and it becomes the worst fucking 10 minutes of my life. I would like to end this video on a more positive note. I fucking love this game, it's probably my favorite game of all time, and as an aspiring game dev myself, I have a huge respect for Arrowhead and what they managed to cook up with that discontinued game engine of theirs. I'm personally not that troubled by the Illuminate when playing them. I tend to be in the camp of harder is better, and I think Helldivers is at its best when it's a desperate fight for survival and not just like kill 'em all, rip and terror type deal. But I think there's a lot of people that confuse hard with unbalanced. The Leviathan did have issues, and it's good that they are being addressed. Furthermore, after looking into why people complain about the Illuminate, I found the subject a bit more interesting and nuanced, so I thought it would be interesting to talk about it. I know I didn't cover two specific aspects that probably people would think about when talking about why the Illuminate are annoying, aka bugs and the major order situations. And yeah, bugs, mostly with the flesh mobs clipping into. Then there's the major order issues. Well, yeah, people are gonna get burnt out from fighting the same factions because of a major order, and you can't really do much about that. It's just a story arc that we have to go through, so I don't think there's really much to change. I mean, my main gripe is just that the Illuminate missions were quite restricted for a while. They still kind of are, and they made sense during the Super Earth invasion, because realistically those couple missions that we were doing were kind of like the only thing we could really do. But now I don't think they need to be as restricted anymore, so yeah, that's kind of it. This is very different from the clip slop I've uploaded to this channel. So yeah, tell me what you think of this more commentary essay type thing. Follow me on Twitter. I post art and complain about the Helldivers community a lot. And yeah, that's all. I hope you enjoyed. And see you later. See you later, fellas.